Okay. Bonjour, Nimi Gazziziawaab, nindizhinikaaz, Migizi nindodem, hello, my name is Luana Moar. The name my spirit holds is Dancing Rainbow. I belong to the Eagle clan, and I'm really excited to be here with you all today to talk about a concept of how we can heal with Mother Earth. Now, before I get into this talk, I just want to have an overall acknowledgement, embracing and having that idea of acknowledging the original peoples of this land who have lived here for generations and generations and who've taken time to learn about the environments that they're in. So this would include groups like the Anishinaabe, which I am Anishinaabe and Brazilian, as well as Cree, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and the Métis people. So going into that, I want to go and have an overall acknowledgement too of the land that we sit on, the land that we walk along, that we go around every day, and that it has all the things that provides what we need to survive, and just having a love for that and making sure to have that conversation and acknowledge it. So going into my first point, I wanted to talk about a concept, an ideology that connects us all together. And so this ideology is how we all grow in a womb. Meaning that if it's a mother to you, or someone who is a life giver, or women and two-spirited people who are able to create that gift of life, they hold you in their womb for roughly around 9 months. In that 9 months, you grow inside water. You live inside water and you hear what goes around from your life giver's body in that time. But once you're born, when you have that water break, and you're there, and you have your first breath of air, that's when I believe that Mother Earth takes over and taking care of you. And so what I mean by this is that you have, the people around you, the environments that you're in that of course may, nurture you or take care of you. But really what it comes down to in a physical sense is that the earth is the one that is providing everything that you need to live. And so going into that, I want to talk about my belief system. I think it's really beautiful that when you have a group of people, there's a range of different cultures, religions, different science-based factors and ideologies that makes us all unique and individualized, but at the same time, we do have many things that are very similar within those different belief systems. And so for me, as an Anishinaabe woman, in my culture, we believe in Creator, Nindizhinikaaz. But firstly, for me, and my idea of this is that Nindizhinikaaz, Creator, is Mother Earth. And so because Mother Earth provides the food that grows into the land, that food that we put into our system, that creates the energy, the fuel for us to be able to survive, going along every day that we need that. Going along, talking about the sun. The sun provides the heat for our systems to maintain a level that we're able to survive in, but also acknowledging how our planet is getting hotter and so how that is at risk. Acknowledging things like our waters. Our waters are so important. Water creates life, that we need that for the hydration, but also acknowledging how that provides, it provides oxygen for us as well. Acknowledging how the earth is predominantly made of water, just like us, we're predominantly made of water. We need that water along with many different animals and plants to survive, that we live all along each other, and that we need that for us to be able to maintain a lifestyle and trying to preserve that so that we have that in the future. Things like trees. Trees, they absorb things that are toxic to us, like carbon monoxide, but then they exhale oxygen that makes us breathe, which I think is a very beautiful thing. Also acknowledging how trees are similar like us. There's all different kinds that have different purposes, different characteristics, but in the roots underneath, they all connect together like how we do. We come from all different places, but then we all connect together. And that's really amazing. It's these things, these environments that are around us that we need to try to spend time and to realize the situations that we're in. So talking about our current state, I think that it's very obvious that within different generations, there's been mass productions of different things that are very harmful to our earth. And it can be very scary and it's very real, but it doesn't seem all the time like there's, you know, so much that we can do. And it's how do we get to that point? How do we get to the place where what can we do? What are our roles in that? And acknowledging things like mass corporations that create, you know, industries every day, creating all these toxins that goes to our environment for things like if you go to the store and you buy a bag of chips. That bag of chips, that one-time plastic use, you got to think about what goes into making that, but as well as how that's going to be here way longer than we are, just for the purpose of using it for a couple of minutes. Which is really insane, but it's hard to escape when that's all that's around us all the time and what's convenient, right? It's based on this convenient lifestyle that we've become so accustomed to. So going into that, also acknowledging, you know, what we're feeling, our systems, how is it, you know, healthy for us? How is it being produced? Acknowledging that when you take care of your body, what you're putting into it really matters. And you know, when we have things like the way that we're getting mass meat, right? Like how are we treating our animals? What's the production to that? How do we make it safer, more natural, and that benefits overall ourselves, right? These are things that we need to consider and think about what is our place in that? What are we going to do? So going into that, in a modern day society, we've become so used to all these different factors that are just so, you know, just convenient. They're embedded in our systems. So I want to talk about an Indigenous perspective of different traditions before colonization that are still utilized today, that had purpose and intention within them, so that they were made that you would be able to continue using these different resources and have that for years and years ongoing. And these kind of things that we need to implement along with, you know, new technologies and sustainable actions that, of course, need to be implemented as well. So an example being is the canoe. Canoe is an Indigenous invention, actually from these areas that people utilize. The canoe is created by birch bark. And a really amazing and interesting thing about birch bark that the Indigenous peoples along these lines learned about is how there's a 2-week window in the year that you can go and take the outer layer of that birch bark without killing the tree, and that preserves it. And so the following year, you can go and utilize that birch bark for a basket or different things and have that. Creating this technology of a canoe that was just perfect to be along these rivers, and utilizing that for more sustainable actions, an example being getting wild rice. You'd go along the lakes that would have wild rice, and how you would get it is that you would shake the rice off that would fall into the boat, which meant that you would not actually extract the plant from the ground, and that you could go back there within the year, and that more would grow and it would be continuous, which I think is really interesting. And these are things that we're not always aware of. Acknowledging things like how they had agriculture here before colonization as well. I think that's sometimes a misconception because of, you know, it doesn't look like the environment from past times of grasslands, but they have evidence and proof of agriculture here, which is really interesting as well, because that means that we had trading networks that went all the way down to Mexico before colonization. These connections that we had to share with each other, all these different traditions, and things that we can utilize for our systems that are healthy for the environment, and grow and learn alongside each other. And so wanting to continue that, right? It's things like going, you know, picking berries, what we have around us. And I want to go into a conversation that is really dear to me, which is traditional medicine picking and the revival of a holistic way. What does that mean, a holistic way, living in a natural sense, creating more things naturally, and taking the time to go and get these things and make it. It really has that purpose and that element of being present with the land. So in a day where I will go with ceremony family, or people around me who I love, and we'll go out into the bush, like, you know, 3 hours in a day away, and we'll go and gather and harvest a bunch of different medicines that can be utilized for traditional smudging. It can be utilized for teas, poultices. It could be a range of different things that have so many benefits, and it's natural. And that idea of when you actually go out into the bush and you know exactly where it's coming from is very comfortable. Having these traditions that go generations and generations back makes me feel more trustworthy to them because of how there's that long history of it. So it's, ideas of how do we implement that and restore these medicines in modern days and collaborate so that we can have that. Acknowledging that in current states where we have, pollution and all these different things happening, it's very scary, but things like traditional medicine picking are going to be gone because of the waters and the land being poisoned, and it will be lost, and it will be and it won't be in there anymore, which is really sad to think about, and something that many people do rely on. It's, these natural disasters as well as man-made disasters that we're contributing to. That is very, worrisome, very scary. And so in that, it's thinking of how do we collaborate, how do we get into that? We've had conversations of things like reconciliation. What does that mean, reconciliation? So I think that's an overall acknowledgement, as well as, with the changes in our world, in our environment, in our land, in our climates, that we need to acknowledge our history as well. There was lots of trauma and lots of very terrible things all around the world, including our own spaces that aren't always being educated about. It's something that's important to acknowledge because of how we have, this long intergenerational resilience, but how it can result in trauma, and how we have these blood cells in our systems that go back generations and generations, which I think is truly amazing. But having the time to heal, to talk, heal with Mother Earth, right? So a huge part of that is taking care of ourselves, and how do we do that? How do we, why do we need to take care of ourselves when healing Mother Earth? And I think it's because if you have a healthy system in yourself that gives you the passion and the, emotional state that you're able to go and actually take part in creating action alongside people. So this meeting, rather if it's once a day where you ask someone for a hug, or you go and get your nails done, or if you just take a time to breathe. Taking the time to breathe, I think, could be one of the most important things. Acknowledging your mental state, having time to, take care of yourself. And so for me, a huge part of taking care of myself is cultural ceremonies, and that's a huge thing that was outlawed for a very long time. So as a person who is heavily involved, I think it's really interesting that I cannot live without it. And so when you acknowledge that the beliefs and values that you had alongside trying to be sustainable with the earth, that was taken away and stolen. I say stolen because sometimes we use terminology like lost, but really it wasn't a choice, right? And now that that's back, to utilize and take advantage of it as much as we can, but healing it at different paces because we're all individual and have that. So when you go and you have that time to connect with the land, for me, in cultural ceremonies, like going to a sput lodge and you're sitting there and you gather with the grandfather rocks, are these granite rocks that are very hot. And they say that they wait thousands of years to be there and heal with you in that very moment. And you splash the water on the rocks and it creates a sauna-like setting. It gets very hot, and in that space you get to heal by screaming, crying, singing, just supporting each other. And having a space like that, if everybody had a chance to have a space like that, I feel like we would be, very healthy within each other and have these collaborations. How do we connect and get along with each other? Things like a full moon ceremony where once a month we acknowledge our moon, the Migizi, which we call our grandmother, Nukamis. How it's interesting that that moon connects along with every 28 days, like a woman will have their menstrual cycle, and I think that's really beautiful and why we have that connection. Things like a Sundancer ceremony where we go and we fast from sunrise to sunset for days at a time, and we're active throughout the day. It's that sacrifice that you take that is very difficult, but you do it because you do it for healing, and you do it for prayer, and you do it for good intention. It's taking that time to realize what really matters to you. When you go without all these conveniences, coming back, just a sip of water or sitting down on a nice, comfy bed, I think is just really extraordinary, and it gives you more purpose and more awareness of what's around you, acknowledging those lands, those animals that live alongside you. It's like at the Sundancer ceremony when you have that time to heal, where they pierce your arms and you're connected to a tree, that tree of life, Anishinaabe, and you run back and those piercings, they rip out. Those piercings rip out, and that's letting you let go of everything bad in your life and having that time to heal. So when you take care of yourself in whatever way that means to you and actually having the time to do it, that gives us time to create a space where now we need to take action. So what is that part that we can actually do to help heal Mother Earth? So once you heal yourself, which is so important to take that self-care, but what can we do? And so I think that this can be small or large, but things really do add up and do matter if you don't think that you can always take action in this. So things like, just using reusable bags, reusable menstrual cups, reusable cups, water bottles, things like that. Because at the end of the day, if you're using reusable bag opposed to 1,000 in a year, it really does limit and make a difference. But it could be things like going and speaking with the group and just showing up. That's a huge thing that people taught me, is just to show up, to have conversations, to create action. Creating action meaning whether that's fighting for your within your local governments, because they're the ones that create that implementation on a higher level, as well as just rather rallying or gathering with each other, or having ceremony, whatever way it looks like, right? So when we have all these connections, when we're all connected by our Mother Earth, and then we connect, as the people from all these different backgrounds, and we connect in actually acknowledging our current environmental state and seeking to want that for our future generations and preserve that, to continue utilizing it. So I'm encouraging everybody to go out onto the land and have that connection. Just take time to sit, hang out with family, hang out with friends, whatever that is to you. Speak with the people around you. What can you take action? What are spaces that are happening in your community? And when we have things all like this that all contribute, things like connecting with Indigenous peoples and why is that important, having all those resources and all this knowledge from past generations of our environmental state right now, and trying to create a balanced environment because of the tragedies that happen, so that everyone can heal as a unit, heal together, heal our Earth. And that's how I believe that we heal with Mother Earth. Miigwech. Thank you.